Good morning this morning, and welcome to your boy Bogdy is going to fix the bowl system edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor and smash that like button. Hey, if you're not already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It costs you absolutely nothing. It's 100% free, and we really do appreciate it. And you're helping us out. Also, if at any point during this video, and I'm sure there will be, something strikes your fancy, please consider commenting down in the comment section below. That also helps us in reaching a broader audience, which is what we're trying to do here at the OHIO podcast. Create a great community of college football fans, Ohio State fans who love the sport and want to talk about it every single day, all year long. That being said, I was thinking about how to fix college football and one of the biggest issues that there is, and that is the bowl system. Now, bowl games for the last better part of a decade to 2 decades have started to get worse and worse and worse on several factors, most importantly being the attendance from the players. Players just aren't playing in bowl games as much anymore, especially the first round draft picks. So, how are we going to fix bowls? By the way, attendance in bowls are awful. You literally can go to a bowl game for next to nothing. They practically are giving tickets away. No one goes, and more importantly, no one's watching anymore. Bowls are dying. Like they're on life support. And with the advancement of the college football playoff, bowls are going to become even more obsolete. Now the big boys will continue to have a presence at the end of the season in the CFP because they're going to utilize bowl games in the second, third rounds of the college football playoff. And so those bowls will never die. They'll continue to um, have some form of relevance into the future of college football. But the other bowls, your little bowls, the bowls that made up bowl season, if you will, at the end of the college football season that didn't have anything to do with the New Year's Six, those bowls are on life support, and I'm here to fix them. No, I'm not Dr. Corey, but the Podfather can giveth and taketh away. So, that being said, I will present to you 6 reasons why college football should consider moving bowls, here we go, to the beginning of the season to week 0. Wait a second. How in the world are you going to do that? Let me explain. And in this video, when I give you these 6 reasons why I think bowls should be at the beginning of the season, I will also present to you the arguments of why some people don't like this idea, because I've had this conversation with multiple people. And I've even thought about the rebuttal to those arguments. So this is going to be a nice little lengthy conversation we have here. So again, just a reminder, any point something strikes your fancy, put a comment down in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. Number one, the first reason here. Why move it to what I'm calling week 0? Of course, if you look at the college football schedule, week 1 is when everybody plays. Week 0, there's usually a couple games in week 0. They're like kickoff games, a game in Ireland, things of that nature. I think Notre Dame played Navy a couple years ago. I think Kansas State's playing somebody in week 0 in Ireland this year, something like that. But there's always like 2 or 3 games in week 0. Well, here is when I believe bowl season can absolutely thrive. So, if you win the right at the end of 2025 to go to a bowl game, then you get to play that game in week 0 in 2026. That is my idea. That is my concept. Now, I understand there's going to be some rebuttals to this, but let me go through my list, try to answer your rebuttal, and maybe change your opinion if you're totally against it. Now, week 0, if we do this, becomes a celebration of the sport, right? You look at NASCAR, and I am not a NASCAR fan by any stretch of the imagination. I haven't watched a NASCAR race since I was a kid. And quite frankly, the only reason why I was watching back then were for the wrecks. But I digress. NASCAR's biggest race, the Daytona 500, is at the beginning of the year. College football has the college football playoff, the national championship. Those are always going to be huge. Those are always going to be the highlights of any season, right? College football also has rivalry games and rivalry weeks. That's also going to be huge. That'll never change. Week 0 can be a big part of why we love college football if bowls are played at the beginning of the year. It becomes a week-long celebration of college football. Like, okay, let me give you a for instance. Um, in December, when no one's watching bowl games, okay, those 2 weeks of bowl games that lead up to the big ones on New Year's Day and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then you know the college football playoff now. Um, no one is really watching those games. I mean, the us diehards will, but now imagine putting that at the beginning of the season after you've had 7 months of no college football, and now all of a sudden you get on a Monday afternoon Bowling Green taking on Colorado State in the ReliaQuest Bowl. I mean, I haven't watched football in 7 months, meaningful football, other than just watching replays. Sign me up for this, dude. I would be jacked, man. This would pump me up. Be like, put me in front of the television every day, all day long, watching bowls if it's kicking off the season. Okay, I think it becomes a huge celebration of the sport if you put it at week 0. And by the way, you still have your schedule and everything. And I'll get into how these bowls would affect the season, but we having it at week 0 all week long, all these bowls, I think become a celebration of the sport. I really do. I think it would be fantastic. Now, reason number 2. I believe it would create more interest in these bowl games, which equals more revenue. Currently, these bowls make their revenue from sponsorships. That's it. That's how they're making their money, okay? It is the ReliaQuest Bowl brought to you by um, Puff and Stuff, okay? Like that's a local store in Central Ohio. Anyways, um, you name it, right? It's the Tony the Tiger Bowl brought to you by Kellogg's, whatever, okay? That's how they make their money. It's all based upon sponsorship. More interest is going to create more revenue. More people are going to go to the game, more people, which is great for the local economies. More people are going to watch on television, so you can sell that ad space revenue if you're a television market, okay, television programming network. So that's going to create more revenue, just more money for those schools who also get to go to those bowl games too. So more interest equals more revenue. Interest is dying in bowl season. It's being overshadowed by the college football playoff. It's being overshadowed by the college basketball has started. The NBA has started. The NFL is getting closer to playoffs and starting their playoffs. All of that interest is killing bowls. If you move this thing to the end of August, week 0, who are you competing against? Major League Baseball? That's already in the dog days of summer? That's it. There's no other competition that you're having to go up with. The NFL is just, they're in the middle of their preseason, okay? You would literally have the market to yourself. More interest equals more revenue. Number 3, and this is a big one for me, the top players won't opt out. It's the first game of the season. They're not going to opt out. One of the reasons why bowl games are just almost unwatchable at this point, if you don't have a team in the college football playoff, is because your top players who are going to the NFL, many of them are choosing not to play in that game. They're opting out. Bowl season has literally become an exhibition. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Outside of pride and bragging rights for the fans, doesn't mean anything. In 4 years, outside of the Michigan fans who are going to use it as some kind of bragging point, no one in Alabama, no one in the SEC, and no one in college football is going to remember that Michigan just beat Alabama in their who gives a crap bowl. No one's going to remember that. No one. In fact, Michigan even had a lot of guys who opted out of that game. They still won. Okay? No one cares. However, if you put it at the beginning of the season and you make the game count towards your record, it absolutely everybody cares. Everybody, including the top players. Okay. So it fixes the opting out of the bowl game issue that a college football's had now for the better part of 2 decades here. And it's only getting worse as bowl games become less and less important as the college football playoff continues to grow, expand, and become even more important. So put these games at the beginning of the year, make them count, week 0. And by the way, you say, but Boggs, that means you're going to have 13 regular season games. Yeah, it does. It means you might have an extra game. Yeah, I know. It's before school starts, so don't give me these players are already playing too much during the school season. They're not even in class technically. They might be taking some summer courses, but let's be honest, it's not like traditional school in the summertime, even if they are. So that's an excuse that doesn't mean anything, okay? So don't give me that one. Plus, okay, if they're playing that bowl game at the beginning of next season versus the end of last season. So last season, 13 games is if you have the bowl game was okay, but 13 games the next season because you moved it to the beginning of the season is not okay. That argument makes no sense. The math doesn't equate. What if all of a sudden that team also makes a college football playoff? What if they do? Great. You get an extra game that helps you get to the college football playoff. What if it keeps them from the college football playoff? What if it does? It's a part of an award being rewarded for what you did, and it can actually boost you and help you in the next season get to the college football playoff. It's one more game, one more data point that you can use to either A, help you get there, or B, keep you out because you don't deserve to be there. So that argument to me is worthless. But the main point of it is players won't opt out anymore. Number 4, and this is a big one for me too, because I've often argued this for a long time. Bowls can be in the northern locations as well. We currently have a few bowl games that are played in cold weather. There's one at Fenway Park. There's one in the Bronx. There's one in Detroit, I believe, in a dome. There's one and on Boise State, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, which is in Boise, which is usually cold weather. There are some cold weather bowl games, but again, no one really wants to go to them. It's cold. Even if it's in a dome. Like, who wants to be in Detroit in December? I never want to be in Detroit. I don't care when it is, but I'm a Buckeye. You get my point. So, it allows some of these bowl games to be played in better locations than they currently are because, again, no one's going to Albuquerque, New Mexico to watch a bowl game. That is not an award. Oh, yay, we made the Albuquerque, New Mexico Bowl. But now you can put that bowl game in, say, St. Louis, Missouri, the Arch Bowl. You can put that bowl game in Seattle, Washington, the Space Needle Bowl. You can put that bowl game in, shoot, I don't know, Cleveland, Ohio, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Bowl. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying here? You have more options now. You have better options. You're opening the game to more eyeballs, more people who are willing to go. Plus, some of these bowl games, one of the reasons why they're not heavily attended is no one can travel to them. No one can. It's December. People have got Christmas. They're trying to pay for Christmas gifts. And it's like, I can't afford to go that. But if I can drive to the game, I live in the Midwest and I can drive to the game or the East Coast or whatever, all of a sudden it becomes more feasible. Again, more interest equals more revenue. Number 2, bowl games in northern locations, I think, can create a little bit more buzz. And listen, some of these players from the South, from Southern schools, Let them play in a different location every now and then. It's not going to hurt them. And the weather's fine in August. Yeah, it can be hot and sticky. That's better than being cold and freezing, isn't it? That's what we hear all the time, us northern people. Number 5, both teams get extra practice. One of the arguments is you lose out on those 15 practices that you get, that you're rewarded if you make it to a bowl game. And those practices are huge, we are told, for the future of those programs, because a lot of those younger guys get to practice and get reps, and you get to see who you are after you've been through the season. Maybe they've been on the practice squad, they've been buried on the depth chart, and now all of a sudden they're getting more reps in practice because you get bowl season. Great. Give them a extra week of practice. They get to start their season an extra week early. Give them an extra week of practice at the end of July as opposed to the beginning of August, right? So you get to open fall camp or camp in summer a week early. So you still get 7 extra practices, right? Okay, so it's not 15, whatever, but you're still getting rewarded with an extra week of practice. You get to start an entire week early. You get an extra week of practice to help make up for the lost time that you had with your team in December. So both teams will get an extra week of practice because they're playing in week 0. That is also something to consider. And then number 6, in my final reasoning here, half to a third of the roster is still there. So one of the arguments that was given to me, and this was by a former Ohio State player, who said, "Hey, man, the bowl game is like a reward for us for what we've achieved that season. We worked so hard for it, right?" I get that. That's the one argument that's hard to combat, but half or a third of your roster is still there. They're still being rewarded. Okay. And by the way, the players who don't want the reward because they're opting out for the NFL, they're playing in this game now. So to me, it's kind of a win-win. Yeah, there's still a couple guys who, maybe 10, 15 guys who wouldn't go to the NFL, depending on the level of team you have and the depth of your roster, who may have been like, hey, we were 7-5, or we were 8-4, or we were 9-3. We weren't good enough to make the college football playoff, but we still had a really good season, and our reward is to go to the Pop Tart Bowl or whatever, and we're excited about that. But now we don't get to go. But yeah, guess what? You got to play in the Pop Tart Bowl at the beginning of the season. Or hey, we played in the college football uh, playoffs last year. So that's a pretty nice reward you got last year too, being on that team, right? So you're just moving it to the beginning of the roster. So here's what I'm going to say in closing in this, and this is kind of where I'm coming from here, guys. We're going to have to make some changes and some adjustments as college football fans. We're just going to have to. College football has changed more in the past 4 to 5 seasons than it has ever changed in my entire life combined. It has the change of this sport is so rapid, and it's not slowing down. And if you want to hold on to some of those traditions, some of those things that made college football unique, like bowl games, those are going to have to adjust as well. Otherwise, they're going to die. They're going to go by the wayside, and you're never going to have nothing. So, even the people who say, listen, it was a reward for us who worked so hard during the season, I get it. I'm trying to save that reward for you the best I can. And this to me is something college football can do and they can get behind, that isn't too hard. You just move it to the beginning of next season, week 0, celebration of college football, move the bowl games around. Listen, how cool would that be? This year, our bowl game is going to be in New Orleans. Next year, our bowl game is going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then the third year, we're going to move it up to Madison, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Like, the bowl games can move now, too, with this, which is kind of cool too as well. So locations can even change. So this is kind of my idea, and it's my way to kind of try to save the tradition, make it fresh, make it unique, but hold on to it because it's what makes college football different and unique all at the same time. and it's going to have to change. If it's going to live, if it's going to survive, it's going to have to adapt. Bowl season will have to adapt or get ready for none of it. It's just going to be bye bye. And that's no one wants to see that. This reminds me of one of my favorite verses I like to read for you this morning, Revelation 21:5. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And I remember when the Lord made all things new in my life, and it's still exciting and wonderful, and college football can be made new a little bit too. The college football playoff is making things really new. How can we make the bowl system new and fresh? I think we do it this way. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I'd love to get what your thoughts are. Do you think it's a terrible idea? Do you kind of like it? Are there some tweaks that you would make to my ideas? I'd love to know what you all think down in the comment section below. Appreciate each and every single one of you. Have a great Thursday, everybody. And remember, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, you know what to do. Go Bucks.